In order to take advantage of opportunities, it takes a level of curiosity, right? I always tell students, most people pass up opportunities because it's dressed in overalls and it looks like work. You know, do the work and make the relationships and take advantage of any opportunity that comes across, because it's not always going to be what you think it's going to be. If I'm advising an entrepreneur, I'm saying dig as deep down as you can to find a very specific niche, because that's where you're going to diversify. That's where you're going to have the unique selling proposition, right? Because then there's a pocket of people that are directly your customers. You don't have to spend a lot of money to reach out to them, because this is something that is essentially aligned with their lifestyle, right? So there's value in pretty much doing that, where everyone, you know, if someone comes to me and they're like, my product is for everyone, I'm like, you have a product for no one. So when you're talking about from a customer, from a business standpoint, you have to be able to essentially name who your customer is, right? And know all their habits and know all the things about them, because then you start to align your resources in a way to directly attract them. You know, you have to just get very comfortable being uncomfortable, right? First and foremost. And you have to get comfortable with firing negative people. And then I would like also add putting together a really amazing team of people that are going to support you, but then people that will call you out on your ish, right? What was more that they were looking for is actually more value for the money that they were going to be putting out. And that value comes in the intangibles, you know, making sure that if someone comes into your storefront, you greet them right away. Even if you can't help them, even if you have a line outside the door, the fact that you just acknowledge their presence, they'll stand in line forever. Engaging your customers in the process is what we found will really allow us to not have to spend a lot of money on marketing, but spend a lot of money on creating a valuable experience for our customers. In our communities, we really need to redefine success and failure, because a lot of our girls have had a small amount of failure and they don't know how to pick themselves back up and get over that hump. And when they do, they are completely unstoppable, completely unstoppable. In order to truly be successful, you have to be willing to fail. And in order to fail, you have to be willing to experiment. And most of our kids aren't experimenting. They're not going out there and trying this idea and seeing where it's going to happen, because they need to be safe in order to make sure that they're successful, so they can essentially have their parents brag about them. True success comes in making the mistakes and learning from the mistakes and being able to move on. But when you have this pressure on you that I have to work twice as hard, I'm not going to do anything, you know, anything that to truly follow my dreams that seems scary, because that means that I'm going to fail and I'm going to disappoint my family. And you have other cultures that breed on, you know, experimenting and following your true passion, even though that means that your family is not necessarily going to be happy, but you have to take those scary steps. You know, you hear people say, just follow your passion and you'll never work like a day in your life, or follow your passion and the money will come. And I'm like, that's crap, right? Because following your passion is very hard work. You know, it's essentially being deaf to all the people around you that are telling you that you're crazy and your idea is stupid and you're going to be broke and you're never going to make it. It's also closing off the voices in your head that are saying you're never going to make it, you don't deserve to be here, you're not good enough, you know. And I often tell people, I'm like, I've tried to take passion to the bank, right? They don't cash that check, right? But where passion really starts to come into play is when you're going through the process and understand that you have to trust the process that you're going through. And that's what passion is. It's that voice that tells you to keep going. And then that's where you really start to find success. You know, our society doesn't tell those stories. They're obsessed with the overnight success. So most people stop right short of their success because they feel so alone, and they don't understand that what they're going through is essentially a part of the process. So So it's all about just getting the ingredients together and understanding like, all right, I need to get creative with the limited resources that I have. Look at your situation, look at your city, look at what's lacking. How can I create something on a much smaller scale that still has impact? So if you're talking about Caribbean and African Americans index the highest on Twitter, they index the highest on Facebook, right? They are now starting to index the highest on Instagram. So we're on it. We're just not using it we're not using it in a way that it can actually benefit our businesses. So making sure that we are letting our customers know that they can reach us on those social media outlets. Not being too salesy on those social media outlets, but understand that it's about building a relationship on there and engaging them. The value with social media is that it's instant feedback. If we get if people don't like the product, we get that instant feedback from our customers that, okay, well, maybe this isn't a product that we should continue, so it directly starts to affect your bottom line. They're looking at the analytics, and it's allowing them to save thousands of dollars in decision making from an experience and a marketing standpoint. Social media now allows you to get that instant feedback. It now allows you to be able to measure it like you couldn't before without having focus groups and hiring these management firms that do all this research and charge you all this crazy amount of money. Now you have the tools, and a lot of the tools are now free. So for us, we have to start using social media much smarter than we have been before. Just because you're Caribbean or you're African American or however that doesn't necessarily mean that your product is always for your community. Sometimes it's for someone else, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think a lot of times, especially with the entrepreneurs that I mentor and that I work with, it's always like, all right, this has to be a discounted product. I'm like, why are you discounting before you even made your first purchase? Why is that something that's in your frame of mind? Like, the world essentially could be your customer base, right? So why would we have that narrow focus? And unfortunately, a lot of times we do. We need to focus on building more vertically integrated communities where all the resources that we need to actually grow our businesses, we can actually get in our community. We don't necessarily have to go outside. That's how the dollar continues to circulate. We have over $1 trillion buying power, but the money doesn't stay in our communities. Golden Krust is something that we should really look as a model of how to do it right. Where you can stay in your community and you can make money off of your community and then also give back to your community. We work, and we definitely work hard. But if we're talking about really moving our communities forward and really actually building generational wealth, that hardly ever happens from working for someone else. It's creating, it's innovating. I go to visit my grandmother. My grandmother's in Trelawney. Never in a million years would she want to be an entrepreneur. But she is an entrepreneur, right? And I think in the Caribbean, entrepreneurship is born out of necessity because of the lack of jobs, whether whatever political whatever, right? But because of the lack of jobs, we know how to build things with our hands, right? I'll drive down the neighborhood where my grandmother lives, and about 5 people have turned the front of their homes into like bars or salons, or they sew. But we have to change the narrative because those are entrepreneurs. They are. They're taking nothing and they're trying to solve a problem, and then they make a profit in the process. They are entrepreneurs. So we're born and bred that way, but now it's a matter of changing the narrative and then also aligning that with the resources, right? It takes confidence in saying, hey, this is what I do it really well. This is what I charge, and you should pay me. And a lot of them have been able to figure that out. When you kind of compare that to people in the United States, entrepreneurship is never taught. It's about preparing students for the workforce.